Welcome to Our Android Week, everyone. I'm Dan McDermott, your host. Joining me from New York, Alan Furstenberg. Welcome, Alan.
Hey, Dan.
Always a pleasure. So,
Thank you.
Olio is a watch coming soon to a wrist near
Yeah,
you.
I think one of the great things about tonight's show is we're talking about on the hardware side. We're talking about two pieces of hardware that are actually that get it, that are doing innovative things, or at least trying to do innovative things. And I think they're, right or wrong, I think they're doing things that nobody else is doing, and that's to their credit. So the first one is Olio, which is it sounds like they're manufacturing a watch, kind of with the understanding that people don't buy watches every year or every 2 years. They buy a watch and they expect it to last. So they designed a watch that's made to last, with what sounds like an operating system that is simple. On the watch is very simple, and has a great deal of flexibility in how it gets updated, so it's not obsolete immediately. I think that's a great approach.
I think so. I think it's interesting because I guess this watch will work with Android and iPhones, and it has some filtration stuff in it. So it's not just a stock Android Wear device, and it's not. Frankly, I didn't know you could make a watch that was compatible with Apple.
Sure, you can. I mean, glass is compatible with the Apple.
Okay. So I think
You
it's
know,
cool. I mean, I like to see high end stuff coming out.
I think it's cool. I think the approach that he's made, that they're going with it, is it's not right on target, but I think it's really close to on target. It understands how people use wristwear, how they're using wearables, and I mean, one of my favorites is they say something like, it's designed so you're not, wading through a sea of apps, and that's entirely true. And most developers aren't quite getting that concept yet, and no Apple developer understands that at all. I think where they're going to slip up a little bit is, if the operating system concept that he has works really well, it will be really easy to create an Android Wear version of the same thing, because it's very, very similar to how Android Wear works now. So I would not be surprised if, in the near future, he essentially re-releases this as an Android Wear app, and an upgraded, and hardware running Android Wear.
Could he monetize it?
Sure, you can monetize it.
A Wear app?
Well, yeah. I mean, you monetize it in their case as a Wear watch face.
Okay. All
But
right.
of course you
So
can. People are making money on Wear apps and watch faces now.
okay, cool. Now tell us about this other thing you brought to my attention. It's not the Yoda phone, but the
Yota phone. We've talked about Yoda several times. I've mentioned that these guys are doing some revolutionary stuff when it comes to e-ink on Android devices, and this is the second version of the phone, and it is going to be available in the U.S. starting next month. I've met the lead North American, the head of the North American distribution for it, and again, he's talking about it in terms of how it's not just throwing more features at something. It's not just throwing a more memory and more processor, or making it out of glass instead of something else. This is taking an approach to cell phone design, to smartphone design, and trying to do things in a different way. And that way is by putting a regular display on the front and an e-ink display on the back. And once you start doing that, I think you can do some really, really different and interesting things.
this sounds like
So
something that is exciting you, whereas most of these other things are incremental. It's a slightly better camera, it's a little faster memory, whatever. But this is an actually extremely innovative new phone
it's
idea.
not extremely innovative. I'm not going to go to that extent. But it's innovative. It introduces something new, as opposed to doing more of the same. which is really what most phones are doing these days. I think the last phone that even vaguely excited me was the Moto X, and that was because it did more of an always-on audio processing. So it could always respond to you if you needed to, without having to trigger a button. And even that was only, a minor increment. I think e-ink can do some really, really radical things. I think it's a great and clever design.
And it's a whole new ecosystem, if you will, for app developers. It's a whole new
Well,
type of
there's
app,
the thing.
right?
It's built on top of Android. So it's not starting over. If you're already, it'll already run tons of Android apps. And you could probably think of a couple more which would make for really, really useful additions to any app. So if you're currently doing an RSS reader now, hey, it would make sense to support the second screen.
Would it be done the way Wear's done, where you don't download a Wear app? If there's a Wear component for Twitter, it's just built into the Twitter app. And
exactly. Well, what it is all Android applications have what they call it's got discovery to it, so it can discover what is available on the phone itself. So all it means is that you're publishing an app. You need to check to see if it's got this second screen. If it does, you'll do some extra things. If it doesn't, you do what you did before. Okay. I mean, I can picture things like a camera app. So that, the front of it, the display that the user uses, same display as always, but the back of it, the part that the person you're taking pictures of sees, is displaying messages like smile, or look here, and pointing at the lens, the camera lens, or anything else to, draw a person towards looking at the camera, which you may want them to do.
Could you do an app that if your kid's looking at bad stuff, it says he's looking at porn on the back so mom knows?
Possibly.
Okay. All right, cool. So I'm excited to see that. That is the first phone I've been excited about lately.
Yep. So here's the deal. If you really want one, you can sign up for early pricing on it now.
How much is it?
They haven't said yet, but if you sign up now, you'll be in the first list both to get it at the early bird pricing and to find out what the pricing is.
Cool. Okay. All right, so next up this is an article I recommend everyone check out, if for no other reason than it's a really, really good laundry list of various types of messaging apps for kids, for adults, for corporations, what have you. And it begins and ends with a note about what sort of a small story in the tech world, but really a big deal, is Mark Zuckerberg announcing that his Messenger app is going to have an API, and you'll be able to actually develop apps that use Messenger as a platform, like iOS or Android. And Alan, you could probably explain this better, but I found this a really, really interesting, fairly long read, but pretty good.
Yeah, I read over this, and my first reaction is, who the hell is this writer? Because they don't know diddly squat about messaging apps. And by that I mean that they've obviously forgotten that we've been here before. We've been here twice before. If you don't remember Microsoft Messenger and Yahoo Messenger and all of those guys and AOL Messenger and how you used to have an API that could write into them and we've been here. The fact that we're here again only shows that we didn't learn our lessons the first couple of times.
But did any of those have 700 million users like WhatsApp does?
Irk.
Irk?
Irk did.
I always thought it was IRQ. Is it pronounced Irk?
Well, for starters, it's IRC. Second, it's pronounced Irk, despite what some idiots say. Those same idiots probably also say that the graphics format is GIF, not GIF.
Well, the inventor said it's GIF, like the peanut butter. But
well,
what does
the
he know?
inventor is wrong.
Well,
that's all there is to it. The inventor is wrong.
If Chi-Chu can call a URL an URL, then you can call it a GIF or a GIF, whatever you want to say.
Anyway, we've been down this messaging road before. It's all going to shake out. It's all going to collapse in a couple of years, and in a couple more years, it'll start all back up again. Been there, done that.
Literally wrote the book on it.
No, I didn't write the book on this one.
Okay. He's still working on his Nexus Q book. I mean, Glass. Just kidding. All right. Anyway, I think it's an interesting article, and if for no other reason, then it lists some stuff I didn't know about. That corporate Slack or whatever is intriguing. I wasn't aware of that, or I'd glossed over it and forgotten it. So there. Next is a couple things we're going to be discussing on Friday, but are also fairly involving Android. One is Google now lets you view custom maps in the main Android Maps app. I frankly had forgotten that you could make a custom app, and I think it's interesting. And I'm thinking one great thing would be in Front Royal in the visitors center. They've got a little brochure with a map of several historic buildings. You can take the little Main Street, Chester Street tour. Wouldn't that be something that would be neat as a custom Google map? So what's this about, Alan?
Pretty much that's what it says. You know, people were really miffed when they took away the ability for custom maps to be part of the mapping experience. They're finally putting it back in. Great to see. We'll be talking about it more on Friday.
And also, Android's Gmail app lets you control all of your email accounts in one place. So you can now, I guess, with POP3 or IMAP, whatever, you can bring in your Yahoo and your Hotmail and your Comcast.net mail into the Gmail app.
This one baffles me why anyone would want this. You've already been able to bring in the accounts into the app. So you could control multiple accounts from the app and switch between them. What this sounds like, and I've only been early begun to look into it, is that it actually will act like it dumps them all into the same inbox. Which, you know, for people who are using multiple accounts to organize their inboxes, makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, that sounds like a pain in the ass, because I definitely compartmentalize. Like my newspaper stuff and my personal stuff, I definitely don't want in the same place. There are times when I just want to hover in the newspaper stuff when I'm putting the paper together, and there are times when I don't want to be bothered by it, because we'll get hundreds a day. And one thing that they took away, I think I'm getting this right, because Craig Shipp is a big advocate of using Gmail for everything. So he has all of that email come over. He just says forward everything to his main Gmail. And then he went and did a setting in Gmail to say that if he, let's say it's Craig at xyz.com, if someone emailed that address, it would go into his main Gmail account, and then he could reply to that, and it would adopt as a pseudonym the original to address. So the reply would be from Craig at xyz.com, and the person would be none the wiser that he was actually doing it all from Gmail. But I think they've taken that ability away, unless it's a Google Apps or account.
They haven't quite taken it away. The problem is they essentially closed a hole where you could lie about where the email was coming from. And that hole was causing a lot of email to get rejected out of hand. So because of that, they now restrict who it can come from, and it needs to be from an address that is from a Google-controlled account. So you can have it come from one of multiple Gmail addresses, all coordinated from the same place. But you can't lie about the fact that it's coming from a Yahoo address and really send it from your Gmail account, because then it's going to go out saying, oh, I'm a Yahoo account, and everyone's going to say, but you're coming from a Gmail host, and you're obviously lying to me.
So, okay, so it wasn't necessarily to prevent spam, it was to prevent false flagging as spam when it wasn't spam.
Well, no, it's to prevent. It's basically to prevent people from putting on fake return addresses.
But I think the ones that existed prior to the change still work, because I think Craig still worked, but he couldn't do a new one.
Well, again, it might in some ways. It depends on how it was set up and what it was doing. People have reported that even those are no longer working.
And do they work okay if it's can it be xyz.com as long as that's a Google Apps account?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on this or anything?
Nope.
Okay, folks, we have two programs. One is called Google Plus Week. That is every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific on Google Plus and YouTube Live. We discuss tech news with a Google-centric theme. That's Google Plus Week, Fridays, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. This program is our Android Week. It is Monday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Thank you, Alan and company, for doing the show Friday. I couldn't make. I was in a hotel room in the Smoky Mountains in Waynesville, North Carolina. Yeah.
Dan, it's 9 Eastern,
6 Pacific. Just kidding. Or it's like Wednesday at noon for Brad and Jason in Guam. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful Android week.